Helen HenRitzy Whidden was born in Maine, the daughter of a Congregational minister, the Reverend Richard Smith Whidden of Selma, Nova Scotia, and his wife, Annie Smith, from Selma as well. The families are old Nova Scotian families. Whiddens were part of the planter settlement in 1761, coming from New Hampshire to Nova Scotia, and subsequently the Reverend Richard's grandfather came to the Maitland area. The Smith family, of course, are also longtime settlers in Stanley, and then, of course, migrating into the Selma area as well. Helen she lived many places, I'll put it that way, because when she grew up, she did nurse's training and went overseas during World War I, nursed there, and subsequently lived in France for another 12 years before she came back to Nova Scotia. She worked at the Path Lab in Halifax for a number of years. Her mother, by that point, her father was dead, and her mother was living with a sister in Milford, Georgina Lance, and ultimately Helen inherited that house, and that was when I first met her. This was in the 1970s. My name is, by the way, Pat Whidden, and I married into the family in 1971. My husband was first cousin once removed to Helen Whidden. He took me to meet her in Milford one summer when she was home, because her place of residence was, at that time, in California, spending her summers in Nova Scotia. And she was such a lovely lady. She was in her mid-90s by that point, and she said when I came through the door, she says, "Oh dear, come sit here beside me. I'm as deaf as a post." And then we went from there. It was a lovely visit. Her main claim to fame, I should say, really, is her work in genealogy. Smith family genealogy that one of her ancestors had created, Nathan Smith, in 1869, and had revised it, brought it up to date. And then, of course, she started on the Whidden genealogy, which was published not long after my husband and I were married in the early 1970s. And it was an effort to look at the descendants of all four of the sons who had come with James Whidden in 1761 to Truro. She was devoted to collecting genealogical information. We don't know very much about her, mostly because once her mother had gone, she was living half of her life, at least in California, with her brother. She was a very modest woman, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that when she writes in her, for example, Whidden genealogy about what other members of the family do, where they live and how they lived and what exploits they got up to, she says very little about herself. And it's by guess and by golly that we sort of put together a reasonable biography of the woman. But as I said, her main claim to fame, as far as the East Hants Historical Society is concerned, is the legacy that she left us in genealogical information. We have in our possession 3 ledgers, and when I say ledgers, I'm talking about those huge ones that have 300 plus pages in them. And they are full of information that she accumulated when she was home in the summers. She was a good friend of Ross Graves, who was a noted genealogist, noted genealogist in Nova Scotia. And they traveled, they visited, and she collected notes. And the genealogies are a tremendous record. And anyone who's interested in their family history and know that the family lived somewhere between Brookfield, Upper Stewiacke, anywhere from there down through Milford Gaze River into the Muscatawbet Valley, it would be well worth your while to come and have a look and see exactly what she has got. For example, she writes in about Arthurs and Reeds and Kerrs and Kentys, McLeans, McKeans, Grants, Annans. She has the best part of 30-some pages devoted to, under the heading of Taylor, to a variety of families like Leck, Henderson, Irvin, Wilson, Corbett, Annand, Bell, McFetrich, Bates, Layton, and that's Layton, as well as Spares in other places, and McDonald's and Schwartz and McAfee's and Forbes and Logans. There's all kinds of family names, and it's not just a casual mention. She gives birth dates and death dates, other information, who they married, how many children they had, and so on. In the third ledger, she devotes a good deal of that to churchyard work, traveling from one cemetery to another and noting the headstones and names and the dates of death and whatnot for a huge variety of cemeteries, not only in East Hants, but some in Brookfield, in Colchester County as well as in Halifax County. So, as I said, Helen Whidden left us a tremendous legacy of information that is going to be of use to anybody who wants to access it. And it's here with the collection that we have, and is accessible basically year round if you put in a call and ask to see it.